I walked into my childhood home and a stranger barked, "Who are you?" My dog was gone. My car? Rented to a college student. My uniform? Missing. My mother is smiling like nothing was wrong. She rented out my life while I was deployed. Then I found the note on the fridge. And everything spiraled. I'm active duty military, been in for 8 years. I deploy often. My relationship with my mom has always been rocky. She's selfish, money-focused, and has the emotional intelligence of a microwave. My dad's been out of the picture since I was a kid, so it's always just been me, her, and my little sister Kelsey, 23F, who's honestly just trying to survive in that house. Now, my mom has this thing where every time I get deployed, she repurposes my room. The first time, she turned it into a home gym. I came back from Afghanistan and walked into a room full of dumbbells and yoga mats. My stuff? Crammed into garbage bags in the garage like I was a guest in my own home. Second time, she rented it out on Airbnb. Yes, really. While I was deployed in the Middle East, strangers were sleeping on my bed, using my shampoo, probably flipping through my old journals for kicks. I confronted her both times and she always had some excuse. You weren't using it, or we needed the money, or you can't expect me to waste space on a room that just collects dust. Like I was a piece of furniture she regretted buying. So this last deployment was a 6-month rotation overseas. Classified stuff, can't say where, but it was rough. Sand in every crevice, daily threat assessments, no real sleep. The usual. I left in September. Before I left, I begged my mom not to touch my room. I literally said, please, just leave it. Don't rent it, don't Airbnb it, don't turn it into a goat sanctuary. Just leave it alone. She rolled her eyes and said, fine. I should have known that meant, sure, I'll do whatever the hell I want the second you're gone. Fast forward to late March. I fly back, totally unannounced. I wanted to surprise Kelsey for her birthday and just crash at home for a bit before heading back to base. I figured worst case, my bed would be covered in Amazon boxes or my mom would have shoved a treadmill in there again. I land, grab an Uber from the airport and walk up to the front door at 11 p.m. I have my keys still, so I just let myself in. First sign of trouble, there's a dog barking. We don't have a dog. I freeze on the threshold because this little white fluff missile comes charging at me, growling like I just walked into his house. Then I hear a man's voice yell, Spike. Down, and I'm thinking, who the hell is Spike? And more importantly, who the hell is that? Out of the hallway walks this dude. Mid-30s, scruffy beard, wearing a robe I bought for my mom last Christmas. He's holding a bowl of cereal and just staring at me like I'm the intruder. I go, who are you? He replies, who are you? I say, I live here. He laughs. Not anymore, bro. That's when my mom appears. I swear to God, she had the audacity to act surprised. Like I wasn't her son coming home from a deployment. Oh, I didn't know you were coming back so soon, she says, clutching a glass of wine like this is an awkward dinner party and not me walking into my house to find a total stranger eating Lucky Charms in my bathrobe. I ask her very calmly, why is this man in my room? She goes, well, I had to rent it out. You were gone. We needed the extra money. I just stare at her. We? She says, me and Greg. That's serial dude's name. Greg. From Craigslist. She met him selling a futon. He was looking for a room. She offered mine. Didn't even ask. But it gets worse. She didn't just rent the room. She rented my car. My 2013 black Civic, the one I bought with my own money while stationed overseas? Yeah. She listed it on Turo. Told people her son moved away and said it was okay. I go out to the driveway and it's gone. She rented it to some college kid who took it to Coachella. I can't make this up. There's a bag of glitter and a broken vape pod on my passenger seat when I finally got it back. But I'm still calm. Not happy, but calm. I go back inside and tell her, I'm staying here tonight. Greg can sleep on the couch. She says no. Greg pays rent. You don't. You're not kicking him out. I look at her like she just told me the earth is flat. I'm your son. Her response? Yeah, but he pays $750 a month. That's when I lose it. I tell her she crossed the line. This isn't just repurposing a room, this is outright disrespect. I fought in a war zone while she was renting out my stuff like it's an eBay lot. Then Greg, cereal in hand, has the nerve to say, maybe you should have paid rent if you wanted to keep the room. I swear I saw red. That's when Spike grabs one of my socks from my duffel and runs off with it. He's standing in my mom's living room, sockless, betrayed, and thoroughly done with this Craigslist clown and her half-drunk justifications. After Spike, the dog, not a metaphor, sprinted off with my sock like it was some sacred relic, I followed him into my old bedroom, big mistake. I opened the door and felt my stomach drop. This wasn't my room anymore. It looked like a tech bro dorm. Neon LED lights under the bed frame, cheap band posters on the wall, 3 monitors on my desk that used to hold pictures of my unit. My bookshelf? Gone. My framed flag? Gone. My bedspread? Replaced with anime sheets. But the thing that really set me off? Greg's dirty laundry on the floor and my dress blues hanging in the freaking closet. I didn't even ask how he got them. I just saw red and turned around. I walked right back into the living room and asked my mom, straight-faced, why is Greg wearing my uniform? She sipped her wine like I just asked her to pass the remote and said, oh, he wore it for Halloween. He thought it was funny. Halloween. Let that sink in. I spent 8 months crawling through sand and dodging IEDs, and Greg wore my uniform to a bar crawl because he wanted to impress chicks. I lost it. I told Greg he had 10 minutes to pack his stuff and get out. He said, this is between you and your mom. I signed a lease. A lease. She drafted a handwritten rental agreement and had both of them sign it. I saw the wrinkled piece of notebook paper pinned to the fridge like it was a kindergarten drawing. Rent due on the first, $750 per month, access to full kitchen and laundry, and get this, may use personal items in room unless otherwise specified. Translation, everything I own is fair game. Greg had been wearing my hoodie, driving my car, sleeping in my bed. And now he was playing dress-up with my uniform like this was some twisted role-play fantasy. I looked at my mom and said, I want him out or I'm leaving and you'll never hear from me again. She shrugged and said, you're not even here most of the time. Why should I prioritize your feelings over someone who actually contributes? I was floored. I don't expect special treatment because I serve, but I do expect basic human decency from the person who birthed me. Instead, she treated me like I was the deadbeat son crashing the Airbnb she runs out of my childhood. So I left. I called a buddy from base and asked if I could crash at his place. Within 2 hours, I had my bags packed again, minus 1 sock and a whole lot of dignity, and I was out. I didn't even take my car because it was out on another Turo rental. I figured I'd deal with it later. Now, you'd think this is where the story calms down, right? Nope. 2 days later, I get a call from Kelsey. She's panicked. Did you tell Mom you were gonna press charges? She asks. What? No, why would I? She says you threatened to sue her and Greg for fraud and theft. What the hell? Apparently, my mom went into full damage control mode once I left. She told the entire family that I flipped out for no reason, that I was emotionally unstable from the military, and that I threatened to sue her for using my car. Let me be clear, I hadn't said a word to her since I walked out. I hadn't even filed a complaint yet. But now she was proactively smearing me to the extended family, probably to cover her own guilt. Kelsey said Mom even posted on Facebook that I came back angry and traumatized and she was praying for healing. The post had 37 likes. One of the comments read, "You're so strong for dealing with a difficult child." I was livid. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I left a message, "You want to make this public? Fine. Let's make it public." I went to the rental site where she'd been listing my car. Sure enough, the profile said owner, Lynn, with MY license plate and MY photos, blatantly against Turo policy. I submitted a report with proof of ownership. Boom. Account suspended. Then I called my insurance and let them know someone unauthorized had been driving the vehicle. They were pissed. If anything had happened while it was rented, I could have been liable. They told me to retrieve the car ASAP. I had to meet the current renter at a grocery store parking lot and explain the situation. The guy was cool about it, said he'd been wondering why there was military mail in the glove compartment. I offered to pay for his Uber home and drove the Civic straight to my friend's garage. But just when I thought I'd cleaned up the mess, I got a letter. An eviction notice. From my mother. I wish I was joking. It was written on the same kind of paper as the Greg lease. She said I had 30 days to vacate the premises even though I already had. The reason? Hostile behavior and emotional instability. I called her. She finally picked up. I said, "You can't evict someone who doesn't live there." She replied, "Well, I don't want you thinking you can come back." I was stunned silent. She followed up with, "You don't get to come in and treat me like I owe you anything. I didn't ask you to join the military. That was your choice." I hung up. There was nothing else to say. I'm at my buddy's place, trying to process everything. My mom essentially evicted me out of a house I grew up in, let some random dude wear my military uniform, rent my car, and now she's telling the family I'm the unstable one. Classic. But I hadn't grabbed all my stuff yet. I only took my bags and a few valuables when I left. Most of my gear, old medals, high school yearbooks, childhood photos, and my safe with my deployment journals was still locked in the closet. I was trying to give it a couple of days to cool down before I went back for it. Mistake. Because 3 days later, I go over with a U-Haul and my friend Jason to get the rest of my stuff. It's a Saturday morning, 9 a.m., and I figured no one would be home. I still had the house key on my ring. We walk in and Greg's there, wearing my high school Letterman jacket. I stopped. Jason muttered, "Yo, this dude's got a wish." I looked Greg in the eye and said, "Take that off." Greg, being Greg, grinned and said, "Hey man, finders keepers." Jason had to physically hold me back. I told him we were just there to grab my stuff. That's it. In and out. Greg's like, "Well, Lynn said if you come by again, she's calling the police." I thought he was bluffing. 10 minutes later, I'm hauling boxes out the front door when a cop cruiser pulls into the driveway. Yup. She wasn't bluffing. 2 officers step out. One starts talking to me while the other goes to speak with Greg, who's now standing their arms folded, smirking like a 5-year-old who tattled first. The officer asks what I'm doing there. I explain calmly, for the record, that I'm her son, I lived here my whole life, and I'm just picking up my personal belongings. Everything I'm touching either has my name on it or came out of my closet. I have my military ID, my driver's license with that address, and even mail that was still being sent there. The cop nods. He gets it. But he says the issue is now a domestic civil matter because Greg, the tenant, and Lynn, the homeowner, both claim I'm trespassing. He says he can't make me leave with the stuff, but if they say I'm not allowed on the property anymore, I have to leave. I ask, can I at least get my safe? He says if they say no, I'd need to see a court order. A court order? For my own belongings. I look over and see Greg's smug face watching from the porch, chewing on a banana like he's watching a damn sitcom. My blood is boiling. Jason is pacing behind me, muttering curses under his breath. The officer finally offers to keep the peace while I take a few more boxes. Anything clearly identifiable as mine I can take. So I grab some old footlockers, my duffel with my name tag stitched on, and a box of medals and gear that thankfully still had my info taped on top. The safe? Locked in the closet. Greg said, "You abandoned it." I said, "It's bolted to the floor, man." He said, "Still abandoned." The cop sighed and just said, "Sir, this'll need to be settled through small claims court." I nodded. Didn't want to get arrested. But when I walked past my mom's bedroom and saw the door open, I couldn't help it. I looked in. And there it was, my shadow box. The one I made after my first deployment. My name, my badge, my unit patch. Hanging on her wall. Like a souvenir from a son she doesn't talk to anymore. I didn't say a word. Just walked back to the U-Haul. As I'm about to shut the door, Kelsey pulls up. She's out of the car before the engine stops, yelling, "What is going on?" I told her everything. Police. Safe. Greg in my jacket. My mom being herself. And she just stared at the house. Then she whispered, "I think I'm moving out." Turns out Greg had started locking the hallway bathroom so only he could use it. My mom backed him up. Said he pays rent so he should get some privacy. Kelsey had been brushing her teeth in the kitchen sink for a week. Let me say that again. My sister, who still lives there full-time, who has been helping pay utilities with her part-time job, was demoted to kitchen sink status so her mom's new tenant could feel more at home. I hugged her and said, "Let me know when you're ready. I'll come help you move too." Later that night, I got a text from my mom. "You brought cops into my home? You embarrassed me in front of my tenant. You've made your choice. Do not contact me again until you're ready to apologize. No, I love you. No, let's talk." Just that. So yeah, I got the car back. I got half my stuff. And now I'm paying for a lawyer to help me reclaim what's left. Greg's still squatting in my old room, probably flipping through my old copy of Halo Reach and pretending he was in the service. Meanwhile, I'm sleeping on a buddy's couch with a shoebox full of ribbons and my nameplate, wondering how this is my real life. If you've made it this far, you're either as stubborn as I am or just here for the emotional train wreck. Either way, it's time for the family dinner saga, what I now lovingly refer to as the Last Supper, foot Greg in a polo shirt. So this was a couple weeks after the cop incident. My stuff was scattered between my buddy's place, a storage unit, and the back seat of my car. I was working with a lawyer to file a formal small claims suit for the safe, my shadow box, and a bunch of other stuff still locked in the closet that Greg was now referring to as shared tenant storage. Cool. Kelsey was couch hopping too. She finally snapped after Greg started leaving his beard trimmings in the sink. She told my mom she needed space, packed a suitcase, and moved in with a friend from work. No argument, no drama. My mom barely noticed she left. So it's early November. I'm trying to focus on work, stay sane, and get through the motions. Then I get a text from my Aunt Denise. Mom's older sister. Super religious, very blunt, and the only extended family member who ever treated me like I wasn't a disappointment. Her text just says, "Hope you're coming to Thanksgiving. Your mom said you were acting out again, but I want to hear it from you." Acting out again. Like I'm some toddler who knocked over the cookie jar and not a grown-ass man getting gaslit by his own parent. So I text back, "I'll come, but only if I can tell my side." She replies, "As long as there's no yelling, you're welcome at my table." Which LOL? Thanksgiving Day. I show up with Kelsey. We agreed to go together for moral support and to at least say hi to our cousins. She looked nervous. I felt like I was walking into a courtroom. We pull up to Aunt Denise's house and guess who's already there? Greg, wearing one of my old flannel shirts. I wish I was joking. The sleeves were rolled up like he'd done chores. He even had the audacity to say, "Hey man, small world," when I walked in. I stared straight through him and said, "You're wearing my shirt, Greg." He shrugged and went back to loading cranberry sauce on his plate. My mom was in the kitchen acting like everything was fine. When she saw me, she gave a tight smile and said, "Glad you could join us." No hug. No apology. Just that. Kelsey grabbed my arm and whispered, "Remember. No yelling." We all sit down. Food's passed around. People are talking about work, weather, holiday sales. And then Aunt Denise says, "So, I heard there was a little disagreement at home?" I could see my mom stiffen. Greg paused mid-chew. I looked at Denise and said, "Yeah, you could say that. I came home from deployment to find my mom had rented out my room, let some guy I've never met wear my clothes, drive my car, and sleep in my bed. And when I tried to get my things back, she called the cops on me." The room went silent. Denise blinked. "What?" My mom jumped in fast. "That is not what happened." I laughed. "No? What part did I get wrong? The Craigslist roommate? The uniform he wore for Halloween? The eviction notice you taped to the door?" Everyone was just staring. Greg cleared his throat. "Look, I don't want to cause any problems. I was told the room was available." Denise cut him off. "I'm sorry, who are you again?" He said, "Greg. I ran from Lynn. That was the first time I saw my aunt go pale." She looked at my mom. "You rented out your son's room while he was overseas." My mom snapped. "He doesn't live here. He's never around. We needed help with the mortgage and Greg was a godsend. I don't know why everyone's acting like this is some crime." Kelsey said softly, "You chose him over your own kids. That's when the dam broke." I laid it out. The Turo car scam. The room being turned into a frat pad. The safe I wasn't allowed to access. The Facebook post calling me unstable. All of it. And my mom? She didn't deny most of it. She doubled down. Said I was overreacting, said I always make things about myself, and that military service doesn't entitle me to special treatment. I said, "It doesn't entitle me to be treated like a son?" She said, and I quote, "You were gone for 6 months. Greg has been here every day. Who's really part of the family right now?" Silence. I stood up. "Enjoy your dinner." "And Greg? That shirt doesn't fit you." Greg replied, "It's kind of snug, yeah." Kelsey stood too. Aunt Denise reached for my hand and said, "I had no idea, honey. I'm so sorry." I nodded and said, "Me too." We left. Got back in the car, sat in silence for a minute. Then Kelsey, eyes red, goes, "I brought a pie." I didn't even get to eat the pie. So we drove to a diner. Shared that pie over hot coffee and passive-aggressive jokes about Greg the flannel squatter. Probably the best Thanksgiving I've had in years. Everything boiled over after Thanksgiving. Aunt Denise ended up being the wild card I didn't know I needed. And just when I thought the drama had maxed out, my mom pulled one last move that permanently shut the door between us. Let's rewind. After the Thanksgiving mess, Denise went nuclear. She called me the next day and said, "I've known your mom my whole life. I've never seen her act this selfish. I'm embarrassed to be related." She also told me she had no idea Greg even existed before that night. And then, she dropped this little gem. "Lynn told me she had a new roommate to help with bills. Didn't say it was in your bedroom or that he was wearing your clothes. So yeah, she'd been lying to everyone, trying to make it seem like she was just making ends meet, like she was some struggling single mother with no help. Meanwhile, I'd been covering her phone bill for years. Paid off her dental bill last year without asking for anything. Kelsey paid for groceries. But none of that mattered. We weren't contributing, right? So, I went back to my lawyer. We'd already been building a small claims case to retrieve the safe and remaining personal property. But now I wanted everything properly documented, photographs, receipts, messages. Here's where it gets weird. My lawyer filed an official notice of intent to sue for wrongful possession of property. We served the paperwork. 3 days later, I get a call. "Greg, He sounds nervous. Hey man, just wanted to let you know I moved out. I didn't realize everything was that serious. I go, Greg. What did she tell you? He hesitates. She said you were in therapy and kind of unwell. She said you gave her the room when you moved out and just didn't want it anymore. I laughed. And you believe that? Even after I literally showed up with a duffel bag and a military ID? His reply? Honestly, yeah. I didn't know what else to think. And then he offers to help me. Apparently, after the legal notice came in, my mom freaked out. Greg realized he didn't want to be in the middle of it, especially since she had started telling people he was her adopted godson. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. But here's the kicker, Greg brought the safe to my friend's garage. He had unbolted it, packed it in his truck, and said, I didn't know it had your journals and military records in it. I thought it was like a gun safe or something. Sorry, man. First time the guy ever sounded sincere. I opened it right there in the garage. Everything was there. Journals, letters, deployment coins, the thumb drive with videos from my old unit. I hadn't even realized how much I missed those things until I saw them again. I almost cried right in front of him. Almost. Greg, weirdly, tried to make a joke to lighten the mood. Said so, we cool? I looked him dead in the eye and said, we're neutral. That's the best I can do. He nodded, shook my hand, and left. Haven't seen him since. Now, the final boss, my mother. She didn't respond to the legal notice. Didn't even show up to the first small claims hearing. The judge ruled in my favor for property return and damages. I didn't ask for much, just reimbursement for the lost use of my car, my room being rented, and a few specific missing items that were never recovered, including my field watch and a pair of prescription sunglasses I'd left in the Civic. About $2,300 total. I could have pushed for more. But I didn't want the money. I wanted the record. Something official that said this was wrong. And it happened. 2 weeks after the court ruling, I got a Venmo notification. Payment received from Linsmith 57. No note. Just the payment. That night I got a text. Happy now? I hope it was worth destroying our family over a stupid bedroom. That was the last message I ever got from her. I didn't reply. But I did sit down and write her a message. Never sent it. Just wrote it, saved it, and let it sit. Here's what it said. You didn't lose a son because of money. You lost a son because you treated him like a tenant. Like a burden. Like a stranger. I came home expecting family and walked into a business transaction. You didn't just rent my room. You sold off the last bit of trust one had in you. Congratulations on getting what you wanted. You've got your space. Now I'm keeping mine. Forever. Kelsey and I are still close. She's doing better now, started therapy and moved in with some coworkers. We talk every week. Aunt Denise checks in sometimes. She even mailed me a copy of a family photo from 2009, the last time things actually felt normal. The house? My mom listed it for rent on Zillow a couple months ago. Whole place. She moved in with a friend in another city. I only know that because Greg of all people DM'd me on Instagram saying, looks like your mom finally moved on from me too. Not my circus. Not my monkeys. I still keep my journals. I added one more entry recently. Sometimes the people who raise you can't see past the version of you they built in their head. Doesn't matter what you've done or where you've been. They only see what they want. That doesn't mean you owe them anything. Blood may be thicker than water, but dignity's thicker than both. I'm not bitter. I'm just done.